I want to bring in NBC's Matt Bradley in Tel Aviv. Vaughn Hilliard is covering the White House. Jamil Jaffer is founder and executive director of the National Security Institute. He also worked in the House, the Senate, and the administration of President George W. Bush. Vaughn, first to you. We heard today from Netanyahu's office that he plans to speak with President Trump. In the meantime, Trump spoke to our colleague Garrett Haake, leaving open the possibility for more negotiations with Iran, but also speaking to a sobering reality that some of those who were previously at that negotiating table are now dead because of these strikes. So where does the administration go from here?
Right. And actually, in just the last few minutes, we believe that the president's National Security Council meeting that he had convened here at the White House has concluded. We will await a readout and potential steps that the U.S. may or may not take in response to Israel's efforts, which the president has effectively taken hold of and willingly and eagerly, seemingly, shared some responsibility for crediting the U.S. weapons supply. And there are questions as to the extent that U.S. intelligence sharing and even military bases and installations, to the extent that they were part of this attack that was carried out by Israel. In that phone conversation between the president and Garrett, the president saying, quote, "They missed the opportunity to make a deal," speaking of Iran. Now they may have another opportunity. We'll see. Of course, this strike came before talks were set to take place in Oman this upcoming Sunday, spearheaded by Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. Now, Iranian state TV, as well as state TV out of Oman, are indicating that those talks had at least been suspended. I was talking with a source from another Middle East country that was helping as an intermediary with these rounds of talks over the last 2 months. They indicated that they are proceeding as if the talks are ongoing, and the White House has indicated that they are still hopeful that talks will be initiated, as the president indicates that the U.S. not only supports the attacks and the airstrikes last night, but also that the U.S. would support. Again, it is not clear whether the U.S. would militarily engage itself or whether that would come in the form of intelligence sharing or other cooperation efforts as to future attacks. Iran, I should say Israel, has made it clear that they want to annihilate the nuclear facilities and uranium enrichment efforts of Iran. And the question is, to what extent is the U.S. eager moving forward to engage with Israel on that, or do they believe that negotiations are still a potential pathway forward out of this?
Vaughn Hilliard, excellent reporting. Thank you for joining us. Jamil, what's your reaction to what Vaughn is saying out of the White House right now and this possibility for talks potentially to continue, but even as these strikes came 2 days before they were supposed to hold their next round of them?
It's hard to imagine Iran coming back to the table while it's still being struck. The prime minister was on TV last night saying this is the beginning of a series of strikes. Right. They still haven't hit Fordo. We believe they may have hit Iraq. They've definitely hit Natanz, but there's still more to do at Natanz because there's a lot of facilities deep underground. So we'll see, but it's hard to imagine Iran coming back to the table. And to be honest with you, Iran was never really negotiating in good faith. The U.S. had sort of two different positions. We will let them enrich. We won't let them enrich. So I think that confusion may have led the Israelis to say, look, if you're not going to hold the line and not go to a deal that's better than JCPOA, maybe we should just strike and take it out as much as we can, even though we won't get all of it.
And we're, of course, going to dig a little bit deeper on the JCPOA parallels to this present period of negotiations a little bit later in the show. But, Matt, you and I spoke this morning in the initial aftermath of these strikes. What's new since then?
Well, actually, what we have finally from the Iranians is some sort of death toll. Now, they said that 78 people had died, 329 were injured. This, along with, as we've heard, those three top generals, top commanders of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, and 5 important nuclear physicists, universities in Iran. So that was a decapitating move by the Israelis. But as we just heard, there's a big Fordo-shaped hole in this operation. So far, we haven't actually seen the Israelis strike what is the major nuclear enrichment site, which is buried deep inside mountains in Iran. Instead, they hit the Natanz facility. But this is an ongoing operation, and we're still seeing this moving. We're still hearing of new cities, new sites that the Israelis say they are targeting. We've been hearing from Israeli leaders all day. They are basically, absolutely just overjoyed with the success of this operation so far. And it looks as though what we're hearing is that this is just going to continue, perhaps for days and days longer. The Iranians say that they're going to retaliate. We keep hearing this angry, bellicose language from them. But I got to say, Ali, let's look at what they have left. Their military leadership is out. We heard from the Israelis that they managed to destroy almost all of the top-level Air Force commanders for the Iranian Revolutionary Guard in one strike. They were all meeting in one room underground. So all of those generals are gone. Those 3 top generals I mentioned are gone. 5 major nuclear physicists are gone. Now, in the past year and a half, Israel has destroyed many of Iran's proxies throughout the region. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in the Gaza Strip. The Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad has fallen. That was a huge benefit to the Iranian regime to get weapons across into proximity with Israel. They really don't have much left in terms of their ability to retaliate. But this country, Israel, is still waiting for the other shoe to drop. Now, we've been talking about the people, they look as though they're ready for something. They're ready for, hospitals are getting prepared for mass casualty events. We're seeing them moving patients down underground in preparation for airstrikes. But the fact is, it's unclear whether or not Iran has the capability to inflict much damage anymore.
Matt Bradley, a long day for you, but you are tireless, my friend. Thank you for your reporting. Jamil, final question to you as Matt brings us into the dynamics of the region there, the ways that it's changed, even just over the last few months. I think the question now that many are wondering is this something that is going to remain an isolated incident, even if it is a few days more of strikes? Or is this something that could explode into a much larger conflict in the region?
Well, this is exactly the right question. I don't think anybody knows the answer, right? The question is, what capabilities does Iran still have after their air defenses have been taken out, after their proxies in Syria, Hezbollah, the Syrian leadership, Hamas, everyone's been sort of, taken out. And so the real question is, what can they do back? They want to respond. They're going to have to respond. Yeah. But 100 drones from last night, that's almost nothing. And so we'll see what they're able to mount. Now, what they might do is they might go and try and go abroad and try to get aggressive with their other proxies, Palestinian Islamic Jihad. We know, for example, they tried to target American leaders who killed Qasem Soleimani. They've been going after them, and President Trump pulled the security for 3 American leaders in his own administration.
Including John Bolton,
Brian Hook, others. If they go after those guys, that could be really damaging to the United States' credibility. I think we should restore that protection right away.
That's actually a very good point to bring into this conversation as we consider what the retaliation might look like. You've seen the Secretary of State say, urging Iran restraint in regards to the U.S., making clear that while the U.S. was aware of this operation, they were not involved themselves. Jamil, Jaffer, thank you for bringing your expertise to us.